Steelers lost last night. Now, the scoreboard said 30-6. That looks like an assing.
Yeah, this was a one-possession game.
Yeah,
halfway through the fourth quarter, or like 4 minutes into the fourth quarter.
There were turnovers. It was a little bit closer than what the final score indicated. I think people made it just... If they watch the game, I think a lot of people probably watch the game so they know they know what happened. But it is 6:46 in the morning, so maybe some people went to bed. It was a closer game than what the score indicates. C.J. Stroud was not that great in that football game. Neither was Aaron Rodgers, for that matter. And you got to wonder whether or not that was Aaron Rodgers' last NFL game because he's 42 years old. But it does bring into question, 10-7. We'll have Pony on today at 9:20 if he bothers to pick up his phone. So that's tentative. I'm sure Pony at 2 o'clock is going to be calling for Mike Tomlin to be fired. And I'm sure that on the morning show over there in Pittsburgh, they're probably taking calls about Mike Tomlin being fired. If Mike Tomlin gets fired, what's the difference between him and John Harbaugh? Right off the tippy top of your head. About success, about complacency. What's the difference between John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin?
So actually, there's a lot of similarities.
Well, that's what I'm asking here, because when John Harbaugh got fired, I'm serious. I would have done it for a bit. I would have driven down to John Harbaugh's house and hung out outside John Harbaugh's house and begged him at his gate to come take the Browns job. I'm not finding myself doing that for Mike Tomlin. I think there's a reason why, but it has to go with emotions, yes.
Well, I think Tomlin comes off a little more hard-headed than Harbaugh does, as far as willing to make changes.
Well, and there's also, I know Lima didn't go, but I spent 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours altogether with 2 Steelers fans who know what they're who know what they're talking about. As angry and silly as it comes off, like they've been talking about firing Tomlin for a long time. We all know more Steelers fans than we know Ravens fans. How many Steelers fans can you find that actually like Mike Tomlin? I could probably count the friends I have that are Steelers fans on one hand that really like Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, they've been out on him for a while.
Exactly. So now, if they actually were to let him go, or there's no firing, there would be a mutual parting of ways, whatever. If he were to actually be separated, I find myself apprehensive, and I'm going, well, I'd love to get to I'd love to have the Steelers' problems. But I say that now, knowing that, I'd eventually get to where Steelers fans are if we just kept making the playoffs and losing in the first round. I would get to that level. I would be frustrated with Mike Tomlin over that, but I'd love to get to there. So what stops me from wanting to get in a car and going after Mike Tomlin? It has to be the Steelers fans I know.
So it's funny because neither coach, Harbaugh or Tomlin, we talk so much in this league about finding that next young, hot commodity. The Browns are doing all those interviews with every guy that the league thinks is an up-and-coming offensive dude or a schemer that's in their 30s. The Browns are going to interview them, or at least take a serious look. There'll be a comprehensive review of those types of candidates. Because the thought is, if you land one of them, you're never going to have to worry about losing them when you win, because you're the coach. So you don't lose that guy. When you have anybody else and you've got a hot coordinator, and like Sirianni in Philly, you've lost how many now on both sides of the ball, that if that's where the secret formula is, then that's going to be a problem, because you're going to keep losing with the turnover in coordinators. But the part that's different about Harbaugh and Tomlin is they are not considered these strategic heavyweights, right? They're not winning games because of their X's and O's. That's never really been the Tomlin or the Harbaugh way. What you're getting with them is an essence. You're getting an ethos, spirit, all these words. It's hard to define, right? It's hard to go in and steal that. If you were able to observe, if you go into a given day in training camp or in week 4 on a Wednesday, it's tough to bottle that up. But it's just there. It's there. It's a mentality. And it's something that the Browns haven't had. The Browns don't have that mentality.
Exactly.
But those teams do. What is it? I don't know. I can't bottle it. I can't figure it out. I can't repackage it.
You're right. 216-474-0092. Would you want Mike Tomlin? They just lost 30-6. Houston scored 23 in the fourth quarter. This was a tight football game for most part. Would you want Mike Tomlin if they were to separate?
And
Would you want Mike Tomlin?
And I
find myself apprehensive.
Yes.
But I'm like, I need to raise the floor, because the Steelers fans are frustrated. They're not humiliated. They're not known to make the worst trade in the NFL. They're not known to have to be, quote, an unserious franchise, even though I think that they've proven many times over the Browns that they're willing to do desperate things to try to win football games. Just the problem is that they're too damn desperate, and it's all backfired on them. But they are certainly trying to win. And much to our chagrin is that they do it, and they not only lose, but they get embarrassed by losing while they do it. I don't. Are Steelers fans embarrassed? Is there an embarrassment there? I think you're frustrated, but it's not 5-11, not 3-14, not some of the, like, we hear about stories of wide receivers kind of losing it at the end when they leave Pittsburgh. I don't hear a lot of it during it. I know that there's been some strife and questions about whether or not that he's kept up with the times. Tomlin's kept up with the times. Like, I would give the advantage to John Harbaugh. I think that John Harbaugh isn't given enough credit for changing the way they do things in Baltimore to make it fit for, at the time, you got to go back to 2018. Lamar Jackson was a change, I think a huge change in how we look at football in the NFL. You think about the conversation that some people were having before Lamar Jackson came into the NFL and some of the silly things that were said, and now what we talk about with the NFL, I think that he was a watershed moment. And John Harbaugh contributed to that. He did. I don't see the same thing with Mike Tomlin. And I think that there's a lot of things that are...
But that's the thing.
He didn't get Lamar Jackson, you're right.
Part of it is they've never been bad enough to just go get that quarterback at the top. So he's been stuck with the worst, the last 5 years of Big Ben, who he couldn't even throw the football down the field.
Neither of the Ravens. The Ravens made a bold move for them.
They made the bold move, but have the Steelers, like, every year they've traded so many either first-round picks or second-round picks to add to make a run every time, but they've never had... when's the last time Big Ben was actually good? That's the last time he had good quarterback play.
It's been a while.
This was not good quarterback. This year out of Aaron Rodgers was better than they've had, but you saw the limitations.
I mean, the air yards are as low as they've been. Yeah, they've a lot of checkdowns.
They've had for a decade now limited quarterback play. And I think that has been what's truly held them back, because his defense last night was hanging tough. They were giving up yards. They were giving up first downs. But they were making plays when they needed to. But they didn't get anything on offense again. And it's like Tomlin, he's just... They've almost been too good to get that good quarterback to bail them out of those spots.
So let me ask you guys, 216-474-0092. I mean, we have spent almost a week now waiting with bated breath on the ideas of what John Harbaugh might want. And I think to a man, I think the vast majority, 97+% of Browns fans would love to bring in John Harbaugh. If Mike Tomlin and the Steelers were to have a separation, would you want to bring in Mike Tomlin? Because I find myself way more apprehensive about Mike Tomlin than I did John Harbaugh. If Mike Tomlin were to get separated from employment for the Pittsburgh Steelers, why wouldn't you want him? Because I'm kind of... which is silly. We won 3 games last year. We won 5 games this year. Like, you'd never be that bad with Mike Tomlin, would you? More on that in just a moment. Folks, check out the Fan Offseason special tonight. It's Tuesday, tonight. And every Tuesday night, the off-season special. It's not just Taco Tuesday. It's Browns off-season special Tuesday. 7 to 9 p.m. tonight, Jake Volnick, Lance Reisland, the coach, Daryl Ryder, the dangerous one, the recapping all the latest Browns news, breakdowns of the off-season needs, where this team could be headed in free agency, and, of course, the draft ahead. You can listen right here, 92.3 The Fan. Stream us on the free Odyssey app. It's going to be broadcast live on YouTube as well. So it'll be on YouTube Live. That's the Fan off-season special each and every Tuesday night. See, I thought it was just today, and that's it. It's each and every Tuesday night. Reminds me of the old draft show I did with the late, great BSK. We used to do it on Wednesdays. Folks, this is Tuesdays, and you can listen to it from 7 to 9. There's no other reason, no other place to go than right here, 92.3 The Fan, 92.3thefan.com. YouTube Live for free. It's absolutely, positively free. Love Coach Lance. Love Jake. Obviously, we love Daryl. Nowhere else to be. But tonight, 7 p.m., they'll give you all the very latest. Love Coach Lance. He's very understanding. I do want to know from Coach Lance, and he might already be at school. I don't want to go shooting my mouth off about the running back situation. There's a question about how the running game looked before and after Quinshon Judkins' injury, and I just want to ask him. before I go, I know I'm a football guy, self-proclaimed, but I don't know as much as Coach Lance does, and I'm not going to pretend to. So I want to ask him about that. Maybe they can ask him that tonight at 7 o'clock, 7 to 9 p.m. each and every Tuesday night. So I'm not as intrigued to take Mike Tomlin, and I don't know why I should. I should. The standard of being, they make fun of the standard in Pittsburgh, and I think the only reason is, as I've heard so many of my Steelers friends complain about Mike Tomlin, that I don't think I'd want him. And I think that the personnel, first, I do not think he'd want to work with Andrew Berry whatsoever. And you could say, good. Well, they give him a lot of blame for the decisions that they've made on their roster. And like DK Metcalf, you guys saw last night, DK Metcalf, he's number one on this team because we don't got much, but he's not a number one in the league. He's maybe a higher number two. He's not a number one. And they go back to the well, and you would set a standard where I don't think we'd ever be worse than 500. And that's a good thing, because we wouldn't be embarrassing. We wouldn't have any of the strife and any of the anger and frustration that Browns fans have had for a long time, save 3 seasons over the last 26 years. So that's a good thing, a very good thing. But did you take the Steelers seriously at all? Did anybody say that they can make it?
No, in fact,
I have a weird feeling
what
they
have
might
we said
be.
Kenny, what have we said about him for 5 years? The voodoo Steelers. They have pulled out so many wins, and every season we're like, how did they win this many games? How did they come up with double-digit wins this year? How are they in the playoffs? We've done this every single year. And so why? Why is it that they're able to do it? Because their rosters have not been that great.
They've not.
And they haven't had a quarterback either.
They've not been, but they haven't been like ours. It hasn't been the way other ones. And you could say, well, they play the Browns twice a year. We split with them every year.
Yeah, we do.
So it's not like they just feast on bad opponents in their division. This isn't the AFC South. I know this year wasn't a great year for the North, but this isn't the AFC or NFC South where it's like, okay, well, you're feasting on 3 bad teams and 1 good one. Like it's usually a pretty tough division. So I can't use that in terms of opponents. It's usually a pretty solid roster. Now, defensively, they've been solid, and their front seven's good. I mean, you got Nick Herbig there, who's been a really good football player for him. He doesn't get as much run as T.J. Watt. I'm trying to make sense of it because in the secondary, they've had a lot of misses here over the last decade. They've brought in some guys that haven't been able to hit for them over the last decade as well. Offensively, offensive line has been makeshift. Offensive line has been never really, really good. It's always been kind of either middle of the road to bad. And the quarterback situation you just brought up. And Kenneth Gainwell's a fine enough player. Jalen Warren's a fine enough player. I think their tight end situation's pretty good. Wide receiver, they've been pretty good, but obviously they've had their problems. I mean, George Pickens was a basket case. DK Metcalf's there. I took his side, and I don't think fans should be leaning over the railings trying to get guys' attention, but either way.
That killed them, though. They came out, they threw to Metcalf like 5 times in the first 2 quarters of the first quarter. And I'm like, man, those first two completions might have been enough to beat the Browns.
And considering how I watch Aaron Rodgers all year, I thought losing Darnell Washington was actually bigger.
Because it was massive.
There was so many checkdowns from Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't, he abhors throwing picks. Every quarterback does, but I don't think he really trusted himself to test himself to go down the middle. So I think there were a lot of checkdowns this year. Kenneth Gainwell feasted on that. Darnell Washington feasted on that. But when you lose Darnell Washington and then you only have Kenneth Gainwell to really worry about because the other guy's got a broken arm, I think that you take it in a different sense of where it becomes much easier to cover a 42-year-old quarterback who really, I don't think wants to take nearly the shots he used to take down the field. And if Mike Tomlin were to be let go today or they were to come to a mutual parting of ways, I don't feel the same way at all that I do with John Harbaugh. I think that there's so many things about Tomlin that
even though Tomlin's younger.
Yes. He's by 13 years? What is he, 52? So what, 10 or 11 years, I think it is? Like, there's still some really good years left on him. But I think some of the decisions that he's made, and I even go back, and it's been this way for a long time, go back to the playoff game in 2020, the punt, when you're starting to climb back into that football game.
Okay, so I want to ask you about
some
this,
of the antiquated
you could do
old
that,
decisions.
You could do that for 100% of coaches, right? So What is it? What is it about?
I don't think I can.
People were doing it for Shanahan in that game that they won and somehow found a way to beat Philly in the first half. I had people that were going off on like 4 different decisions that Shanahan made.
I didn't see those, so I apologize.
So it just can't be that, right? Because we do this after every playoff game where we look at the losing coach and say, oh, bad time management, bad decision, should have gone for it there, shouldn't have gone for it there. So it can't be just that, right?
I think it's the way that it's almost like he fights back on things that we've learned. It took us a little bit because you go with what's comfortable, right? You're always going to be a little bit slower to move to something new, especially as a Browns fan, because you didn't even trust what you knew before.
Hold on, Kenny. The Browns have gone for, I saw yesterday, there was a chart. You know I love my charts. There was a chart that took every NFL coach last year and graded their timeout usage for the whole year. And Kevin Stefanski, if you were at the bottom of the graph, you were doing well. Top of the graph was Sean Payton. He was the worst. Kevin Stefanski was, I think, the 3rd or 4th best. So it can't just be that either.
It's not just that, Anthony, but it's some of the decisions that are made where, again, I go back to that playoff game, but it's other things where it's like, man, he's always going to take the 3. He's never going to push the envelope. And it took me a while. I mean, we've been a more aggressive team on 4th down we were a more aggressive team on 4th down under Kevin Stefanski, obviously. And it took me a while to adjust to that because I didn't trust any other coaches. And when you're just getting off the Freddie Kitchens, well, we're just going to go for it on 4th down and be crazy because we're crazy people. It's hard to trust that. Now I look at it and I've seen what the NFL in 2026 looks like, and I think I know what the NFL in 2026 and beyond is going to look like. And I think that Mike Tomlin, I don't feel that John Harbaugh is behind. I feel Mike Tomlin in-game is behind.
You might be right, but
there's a but there.
We go and hire a 35-year-old up-and-coming coordinator. Okay, they might get all that stuff right. They might have grown up playing Madden. They might have analyzed more games per pound than the way that like Tomlin or even Harbaugh look at things, right? Because that's the same thing people said Harbaugh. Did things kind of pass him by in terms of being at the forefront of how the game is played today? You might have the edge when it comes to timeout usage. And you might have the edge when it comes to going for it on 4th down, or you're down 15, to go for 2 earlier than maybe some of the archaic or antiquated NFL coaches. But what if you don't have, like I told you, that mindset that when you walk into the building, you know who's in charge, you know how to hold people accountable, the things that Tomlin and the things that Harbaugh are good at. You have a word
I wrote
that
it right
you wrote,
down,
culture.
And people on YouTube Live can see it.
So what's more valuable?
That's my issue. Let me contradict myself the moment I say it. It has to be the Steelers fans I know. It has to be them. We are so close in proximity. And I'm from Canton. You know that there's a mix in there because of the steel industry, all the stuff. And I just wrote down culture. Because the Steelers go 9-8, and you always, George Pickens is this and that. You hear this on his way out. Antonio Brown saved the attempted murder charge.